If you only take one thing away from how I think about YouTube for business, let it be this. Topic selection is strategy. Bigger than production, bigger than upload frequency, bigger than most things and teams obsess over. Hey, I'm Matthew Pearce, and from this little corner of the Tiki Bar, I want to talk about how I actually think about choosing topics. Because the center of all this is buyer intent. Buyer intent, it really just means this. What is the person trying to figure out? And how close are they to doing something about it? You see, that's the game, because the same viewer can show up in very different mindsets. Sometimes they're just kind of realizing a problem exists. Other times they're comparing solutions. Sometimes they're doing their final stage homework right before reaching out. So your job is to meet them where they actually are, not where you wish they were. So let me break this down. The first layer, it's problem-aware intent. This is the viewer who knows something, but just kind of feels off. They haven't really fully identified what the problem is yet. They're asking, why is this happening? How do I know this is even serious? What's causing this? So a good video here helps them to name the problem, and when you do that well, you become really associated with solving problems, being of help, and that really matters. The second layer is solution-aware intent. Now they know that the solutions exist. They're really asking the questions, what are my options? How do people solve this? What approach makes sense? You see, that kind of video helps orient the buyer. You're helping them understand the landscape, the trade-offs, and the possible paths forward. The third layer is the option-aware intent. Now they're kind of comparing, they're evaluating, they're trying to reduce their risk. They are searching for things like X versus Y. Is this really worth it? Why should I look before choosing? This is where the decision stage content lives. And honestly, this is where I think most business channels are at their weakest, because on these topics, they just feel too narrow when they produce videos. Their team is just really focused on reach. But that narrowness is exactly what makes them valuable. It really filters out the wrong audience. It concentrates on the right one. And now to our fourth layer. This is the provider-aware intent. Now the buyer knows that you exist and you're deciding whether or not you're a good fit. At this stage, they want proof. They want examples. They want demos, processes, trust. They want to know what's working with you and what it really actually feels like. What will buying your product look like for them? This is where almost every channel falls short. They spend way too much time on awareness and not enough time helping buyers make the decisions that in balance quietly limits their value. So how do you actually find topics? Well, for problem-aware content, you gotta listen carefully. How are buyers describing their frustrations before they know what to call the issue? It's not your jargon, it's their wording. Sales calls are great for this, support conversations too. For solution-aware content, look at the questions that people are asking after they realize that they need help. What are they comparing? What makes them nervous? What do they need answered before spending time or money? For option-aware content, get a lot more specific. You can do comparisons, pricing factors, product breakdowns. These topics often feel smaller, but they sit much closer to the actual buying decision. And the provider-aware content, well, you can talk about how you think, your process, your philosophy, the types of clients or buyers you're a strong fit for, and the ones that you're not. It's that kind of honesty that builds trust fast. One practical exercise that I really like is creating an intent map. Take your topic, take your ideas, and then sort them out by intent level. Problem-aware, solution-aware, option-aware, and provider-aware. If almost everything sits at the top of the funnel, you're probably found one reason that the channel isn't helping the business enough. Because awareness alone doesn't close uncertainty. One more thing about buyer intent. It's not only search. You see, a lot of business viewing happens through browse. Someone sees a title and they instantly recognize that it matters to them. That's still intent. It's just slower burning intent. So when choosing topics, ask yourself, would the right person recognize himself in this title? If it appeared unexpectedly, that matters too, because topic selection done well isn't about being clever, it's about being precise. Precise is what you want. Precise is where they are. Precise is what they need next. So if you get that right, everything else gets easier. Scripting, packaging, measurement. And if you get it wrong, well, the rest of the work often isn't just polishing a topic that was never going to do the real job in the first place. Hey, I'm Matthew Pearce. Here we keep coming back to the one question: how does this help grow the business? Because the topic is the strategy, and everything else is the execution.